lives already at stake? Some of us embrace the possibility in change. No progress is impossible if everything remains. For years, I kept saying, I believe in human ingenuity, in engineering. I never accepted the crisis. Always felt our scientists would get us out of it, invent some last-minute miracle things. At the same time, scientists were urging us to wean ourselves off our carbon addiction. My response was to believe so much in scientific wisdom, I didn't need to change anything about the way I was living. I wasn't listening. None of us were listening. When we're told the conditions we'll be living in, it's terrifying. So we find ourselves distancing, witnessing in a passive way, not engaging. For now, climate change is miles away. For Western nations, what for us is Sunday is right now in many places, and they won't face it alone. See, the danger with this change is its scope. We all know the butterfly effect, that the smallest of incidents becomes a catalyst. The tiniest event can be cataclysmic. You're wondering what the relevance to climate change is. Well, in Syria, there was a drought. See, we aren't just talking about the weather. Picture this woman. She exists, which is to say, we aren't pretending, so you can't imagine this, just acknowledge she exists. This woman is Syrian, but she could be anyone. She and her husband are farmers. Since 2006, they've been desperate for water, and now it's 2009. 1.5 million farmers have already fled the countryside. Syrian cities destabilized because at the same time, Iraqi refugees already caused an urban population rise. No water means lack of food, lack of resources, a pressured government. By 2015, you have millions of refugees, European nations intervening, not to speak simplistically, but this started with a drought, which followed a century's worth of downward change in the amount of rain. Researchers say that drought was climate change. We aren't just talking about the weather. But we were speaking of a woman. A farmer left with nothing to farm on. She's weak, hasn't eaten properly in many seasons, and now she's a refugee. Cramped into a crowded tent city, she's at high risk of disease. Perfect conditions for everything spreading epidemically. We've not begun to speak on her health mentally. She's been through traumatic things. Now surrounded by thousands more traumatized people, we all know she's at risk of... This life is inconceivable, though all too real, lived by too many people. Lose everything, lose family, end up living in a tent city interminably with no solutions to speak of. No one is going home soon. There's nowhere to go home to. This story isn't new to you. War-torn lands, refugees, we're used to this imagery. We've never seen guns armed for water. Never known a drought to draw such violence before. Trust us to turn climate change to new causes for war. Do you see, we aren't just talking about the weather. When the environment changes, everything does. We didn't quite grasp that's what the environment was. Everything. Not just greenery, but cities, buildings, culture, people. Means a female farmer has to flee home. Means millions headed for the European coast. Knock-on effects piling up like dominoes, because when the climate changes, everything goes. You can say these are assumptions and false extrapolations to claim a regime change started with a lack of rain, but we can never say what will happen till after. Can only accurately predict the past. We are so dependent on climate stability, on everything behaving how it has been. When the climate changes, it's we who behave unpredictably. We've never been humanity before. We've had allies and borderlines, only ever bonded in wartime. This is a different kind of crisis. Climate change means refugees from practically every country. Someone you know losing their home. Not just their house, their whole town could go. They lose what they know. We lose what they know. We don't know all we'll lose, just that it's a lot more than we're prepared to. With no refuge saved for all of us to flee to, do you see, we aren't just talking about the weather. We are each on the brink of this. Every country, all people, so what are we going to do? We can't control the weather, but we can affect it. We've unwittingly proved that over centuries, misspent our energies, now desperate for a remedy. We've been desperate for so long, so desperate, we run war out of water. You know, our use of fossil fuels causes 7 million unnecessary deaths annually. That's 1 in 8 deaths globally, but we viewed that trade-off acceptably because we felt fossil fuels were the necessity. More than breathing, more than people. Believe me, we need people now. We need every single one of us demanding more renewables, an end to fossil fuels, better investment, greener politics. If that sounds like a lot, it isn't. Our dependence on fossil fuels is quite literally killing us. Those 7 million annual deaths, most could be prevented if we went with cleaner energy. There'd be a reduction in cancer patients, heart attack rates, childhood asthma cases. We haven't even started speaking about the weather. We owe each other better, owe our best efforts. There are effortless changes we can make. Compared to what's at stake, to the naivety of continuing this behaviour, no effort should be too much. It isn't as if we're asking for a miracle. Even if we were, we've made miracles before. Norman Borlaug, antibiotics. We've demanded so much of scientists, always expectantly awaiting their miraculous, not realising they were awaiting us to wake up. We are now forced to change course, to reduce this pollution we've caused. We can stop. And that wouldn't take a miracle. Just a decision, not just by politicians. You two impact this as an individual together. We make 7 billion of them. Impacts. We've never worked en masse before, never been a global force, never been us. Thus far, our miracles have come from the sciences, which means they weren't actually miraculous, just created by people. All our miracles were created by people. All our miracles are people. There are more than 7 billion of us. 7 billion potential miracles. 7 billion people saying stop. 7 billion kept promises. 7 billion holding ourselves responsible. We will not resist the changes asked of us. We'll not dismiss the necessary sacrifices. I owe everyone next to me the chance to keep existing. Imagine if all 7 billion of us said that. That's what it'll take. When everything's at stake, we need everyone engaged with 7 billion miracles. Imagine what will change.